Does hypnosis work on people with ADHD? The short answer is yes. And the long answer is some of my ADHD clients have been the most hypnotizable of all of my clients. But a little bit more on that later. So perhaps if you're watching this, you're curious about hypnotherapy, but you also might be worried about trying it because what if I spend money on it and I can't follow the hypnosis? What if my mind drifts off? Is it not going to work? And will I have to sit still the whole time because that's really tough? No, you don't. So I've split this whole video into chapters so that you can skip ahead to the bits that you're most interested in. And before I go any further, I'm basing this purely on my experience as an ADHD hypnotherapist. And needless to say, I am one practitioner, so I'm sure experiences will vary. In this video, I'm going to explain what I found works really well in terms of hypnosis and ADHD brains. And I'm going to answer some of the common questions that you may have. And let's dive right in. Okay, so let's talk about focusing on the hypnosis. What happens when I get distracted? What happens if you can't follow the therapist's words that they're saying? What if you're missing words? Well, it's actually fine. If your mind wanders away from the hypnosis, that is what minds do, and it doesn't mean that the hypnosis won't work. Just know a part of you will unconsciously be listening along, even if that's outside of your awareness. In fact, we know that that happens because if you've ever had the experience where you're maybe sat chatting to somebody and you don't think you're listening to anybody around you particularly, but then you hear your name and you just kind of dial into it. I mean, that's your unconscious mind. So it's outside your awareness. There is a part of you that listens along, and it's the same in hypnosis. So I'd encourage you to take the pressure off yourself. The suggestions that are there to be heard by you, they will still sink in, whether you're tracking the conversation or not. Let's move on to fidgeting and stimming during hypnosis. Often when we think of hypnosis, we think of someone really still and just not moving at all, and clients might initially worry that they won't be able to do that. So the answer is you do not have to sit still. It's completely fine to stim and fidget when you're in hypnosis. Particularly, I'll encourage this at the beginning of sessions. I will openly say to clients, some people like to fidget. That helps them to relax, helps them to kind of get into the story. So some clients have particular comforting movements, maybe hair twirling, something that kind of helps them just to relax and kind of get into the hypnosis. And I mention it because stimming and fidgeting is something that I've experienced whilst on the job, both in myself when I listen to hypnosis and for the client. And I can confidently say that the more you can allow somebody to be themselves in hypnosis, the more enjoyable it will be, the better time they're going to have. And I say that because your hypnotherapist may not directly say to you that it's okay to fidget. They may not have been told that in their training. Your therapist may stop the hypnosis just to check that you're comfortable and relaxed. So if you're feeling self-conscious at all about fidgeting, tell your hypnotherapist. You can say, hey, sometimes when I do this movement or twirl my hair, it helps me to relax. That way you're letting the hypnotherapist know that you're fidgeting because you're relaxing. You're not fidgeting because you're super uncomfortable. Sometimes it's nice to just tell them ahead of time, but you don't have to. So I'm going to start off by saying that I think hypnosis should be there to fit the client rather than the client needing to fit with the style of the hypnosis. And the benefit of working with a hypnotherapist one-on-one is very different to listening to a standard hypnosis tape, because you have a real life person who is creating that hypnosis script for you based on the way you think, your personal interests, and particularly the styles of hypnosis that you enjoy. And it doesn't mean that standard scripts won't work for you, they absolutely can, but I think it's always better to go a bit more tailored to get the most out of it. So for instance, I've got clients with really detailed imaginations, they're very visual thinkers, so the hypnosis that I create for them is very visual, it's full of rich descriptive detail. But other clients, they have no natural ability to make mental imagery. They might have a stronger connection to physicality and the physical sense perception. But what does that mean in real life? So let's imagine that hypnosis is created around visiting Narnia, right? It's their favorite story. They'd really love to experience that. So if I know that they are a more sense physical perception, in order to get them to travel through that wardrobe to visit Narnia, I'm not going to describe the wardrobe in a visual detail. They're unlikely to see the wardrobe, but they may be able to feel the shape of the handles. They may be able to feel how heavy or light that is when they pull the door open. Maybe when they're moving through the wardrobe, they can feel the softness of the coats around them. Perhaps they know that exact moment when they've stepped into Narnia, because there's that like flurry of cold air that hit the fingertips first, and then maybe the nose and the cheeks as they kind of peer out from the back of the wardrobe. So notice how I didn't focus on anything visual there. It's all sense and touch related. And because if that's how the client thinks, that's the best way to tell that story. And if you work with a skilled hypnotherapist, they want to make that hypnosis experience immersive and enjoyable for you. So they'll be asking you questions to kind of find those things out so that they can make that a better experience for you. And I find generally hypnosis works a lot better once I know the client and I can more or less dial the hypnosis into how they naturally think and feel. And lastly, let's talk about the statement that I made at the beginning of the video, that my ADHD clients have been some of my more hypnotizable clients. Now that's a big statement, but I stand by it. Now, of course, I'm just one practitioner speaking, but I've noticed that my ADHD clients can often report very immersive experiences. And I've noticed that this tends to happen after a couple of sessions. Normally by that point, they're very relaxed and comfortable around me, comfortable in the space, and comfortable with the experience of hypnosis. It's at the point where we've usually by that time discussed some of their favourite places, experiences, locations, so I'm really able to kind of dial into the hypnosis to really personalise it. I do that with all my clients, by the way, and I notice that if the hypnosis is dialed in just right, hyperfocus can kick in and ADHDers can experience some very profound hypnotic journeys that can just sort of naturally happen. It's not really something the client controls or me, but when the conditions are right, hyperfocus can really kick in, which is lovely, and ADHDers can experience some very profound hypnotic journeys, particularly when the story is deeply interesting and engaging. And this is a personal belief of mine, but I think, why write a hypnosis about laying on the beach? If the client would be more interested in riding a dragon like their Daenerys Targaryen, and they are just scouring the landscape and just taking it all in, I believe that good hypnotherapists try to incorporate their clients' special interests and give them an interesting and meaningful therapeutic experience, because yes, the same suggestions will work either way, but you may as well ride a dragon. So I hope that's cleared up some of the mysteries around hypnotherapy, particularly if you have ADHD. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. Just put them in the comments. And if you'd like to work with me one-on-one, if you're interested in that, you can find my details in the description. And yeah, see you in the next video.